Okay, madam, it's live.
Yes.
ब्रॉडकास्ट करन 2 सेकंड कीजिए.
Streaming online to you.
Can we start now?
Wait a minute or so, sir.
Sure, sir.
Wait for a minute, sir.
अरे कोई बात नहीं.
Madam, you may start.
Good evening, everyone. We are heading towards 4th day of our series of webinar. We all know that knowledge is embodied in people gathered in communities and networks. The road of knowledge is via people, conversation, connections, and relationships. Knowledge surfaces through dialogue. All knowledge is socially mediated, and access to knowledge is by connecting to people that know or know who to connect, who are willing to share their knowledge. So today we are connecting with Professor Kiran Pandya sir. He is Professor and Head Department of Human Resource Development, Vietnam, South Gujarat University, Surat. And I request Professor Rakesh Srivastava sir to introduce him. Sir, over to you.
Okay. Thank you, Preeti. Good afternoon to all the panelists as well as the attendees who could join on time here. As rightly pointed out, this is the 4th day of our 5 days long webinar. I think this is one of the, again, I'm repeating, one of the longest webinar which we are hosting in MS University of Baroda, each session of 2 hours. Today, without wasting time, we have Professor Kiran Pandya. He is a very, very senior professor in the South Gujarat University, Surat. As pointed out by earlier introducing by Preeti, that he is Professor and Head Department of HRD. Beyond that, I would like to say something about him. He holds a PhD degree from Sussex, UK. He is the IQAC coordinator. He is the LLM coordinator. He is the coordinator for MBE program. He is the coordinator for several programs being run by Veer Narmad South Gujarat University, Surat. He is the nodal officer for several projects going on. He has several research publications, and because today is going to be a little bit, I can say, kind of practical session, not exactly practical because attendees may not be able to follow the instructions on their own laptop unless and until they have SPSS loaded with them. But I would like to say that it's very important. It is said that a wheel is not a wheel until it is rotated. So what I have told you in my yesterday's presentation was different kinds of wheels only. Like this is t-test, this is chi-square test, and this is regression, and this is multiple and whatnot. But today I have a person who is going to rotate this wheel. He is going to take some examples, and through SPSS, he is going to explain what we have mentioned in our flyer, that a statistical analysis part 1. So without wasting even a single minute, it is over to you, sir. I welcome you on behalf of the MS University of Baroda. A very warm welcome from all of us here. Sir.
Professor Srivastava, thank you so much for your generous introduction. I take this opportunity to express my profound gratitude to Professor Parimal Bhai Vyas, the Vice Chancellor, and IQAC. And of course, my thanks are also due to Professor Rakesh Srivastava,
Sir.
who gave me opportunity to share my views on using SPSS. I'm very happy that the MS University has taken a lead to organize a series of lectures on research methodology. In fact, research methodology is one of the most important components of research. Most of the researchers, I'm talking about the student research scholars, they focus more on technique, but the less on research methodology. The findings of any research is sensitive to not only the use of statistical technique, but also is very sensitive to the use of research methodology. My predecessors have given very elaborate introduction to the background of research methodology and research. And in fact, Professor Parimal Vyas also discussed several issues related to quantitative research and methodology in his inaugural address. Professor Rakesh Srivastava also yesterday discussed at length the type of data and its relationship with the use of different statistical techniques. I think before you start any analysis with the help of any statistical package, it is necessary to have exposure of the types of data. But before I start my formal presentation on SPSS, I would just like to connect my lecture with the previous lectures and with the topic of research methodology. I will start my PowerPoint presentation. A host has disabled the participant screen sharing. Please. Friends, you can see two photographs on the screen. The one is Lao Tse and another is Socrates. Both are great philosophers. Now Socrates said, I only know the facts of my ignorance. And the Lao Tse says, he who knows doesn't speak. And he who speaks doesn't know. This is what Lao Tse says. So both Professor Rakesh Srivastava and Professor Parimal Vyas made my life very difficult. So if we go by Lao Tse's version, the person who speaks doesn't know anything, So, but anyway, I must thank MS University that in this our very slack period of time, both for the research scholars and for the resource person and for everyone.
Correct.
Because Professor Vyas is a very hard taskmaster, so he doesn't spare his friends also, and he make his friends also to work. So this is how I am here into this seminar. So friends, apart from this, I mentioned about Lao Tse and Socrates, because the knowledge is very, very serious things, and one should be very serious when we talk about anything about the acquisition of knowledge or the creation of knowledge. So the structure of my presentation is like this: some preliminaries, then the rationale why SPSS, why we should be using SPSS. Then I will discuss the basic interface and overview of SPSS, preparation of data files, data screening and transformation, descriptive statistics, and graphs. Of course, some people might think that this is a very simple things. But then friends, my presentation will be from the research perspective, assuming that you are doing research or going to do research. So SPSS will be one tool, but then I will be discussing the research issue while explaining how to use SPSS or how SPSS can help us to identify the issues that you might confront while doing research. So I hope everyone will have some takeaway. So again, I think Professor Srivastava and maybe I think the first research person also talked about this. This is very famous quotation of Einstein. Not everything that counts can be counted, and not everything that can be counted counts.
Yes.
This is very important because the quantitative research has one basic limitation. See, quantitative research presupposes a measurement of variable. Now, if you cannot measure the variable, then you cannot use for research. Even if the variable is very important, okay, if some independent variable is there, it's very important, but then you cannot measure it. So you cannot use that variable in your analysis. So all quantitative research, so most of us in social sciences and in natural sciences also use quantitative techniques. I'm not going to detail the why we are using quantitative techniques and this, that is merits and demerits. I'm not discussing that. But then we must know that we are excluding or ignoring many things without knowing that we are ignoring, because we are only using the things which can be measured. We are excluding the factors that are very important, that matters for the problem that we are studying. But then since it cannot be measured, we exclude them from our analysis. And then many times, since data is not, even if it is measured, this data is not available, we exclude them from the analysis. So we must remember this. Then of course, this is my own sentence is that most of the time, the students ignore simple things and basic things. So I always tell them, the simple and basic things doesn't mean that it is unimportant. Sometimes they are the most important things and that we ignore. Suppose if you are a leading surgeon is there. So the surgeon will have his own expertise, but there are many little small things which is associated with undertaking operations. They are also equally important. If suppose we don't take care of those aspects in performing operations, probably operation can fail because that may lead to some other kind of complication. Maybe it may lead to infections and other kind of things. So simple and basic things in research also, maybe data cleaning or data entry things, preparing a file, preparing a code book. All these things are very, very important. And therefore, we must also focus on this. My difficulty is, difficulty in the sense that I have seen many books related to SPSS and other things, but they focus more on statistical analysis, but they don't focus on the many preliminary issues. So for that, you have to read some specialized books, or you have to depend on the manuals. Now, why statistics or statistical analysis is important? So none other than the father of Indian statistics, P.C. Mahalanovich, he said, scientific laws are not advanced by the principle of authority or justified by faith or medieval philosophy. Statistics is the only court of appeal to new knowledge. How fascinating it is, This provides, a foundation for undertaking statistical analysis. That all branches of knowledge, whatever you claim, whether you belong to sociology, economics, management, or biology, or maybe astronomy, whatever is the branch of your studies, but then whatever you claim, whatever you propose, whatever is your hypothesis, whatever is theory, ultimately it has to appear in the court of statistics. Now, whether it is right or wrong, I am not entering into that debate. But then this is the, professional requirement at present. So that is why the use of statistical technique, learning of statistical technique, proper use of statistical technique, appropriate use of statistical technique, and how to use them, how to apply in real life research, because very, very important. Now, when we talk about P.C. Mahalanovich also, see, most important thing is empirical verification. In epistemological consideration, empirical verification is very, very important. So when we talk about the empirical verification, how can we forget Sir Karl Popper? Of course, I have deliberately put this photograph of the Karl Popper. You can see that he has put his hand on his head. He's also, thinking about all these very, very serious issues of philosophy of science. This came to my mind, because while listening to, a first resource person, somebody had commented about this falsification or falsifiability. So I think many people don't understand. They think that when we talk about the falsification, it means that it is false. People have some kind of notion is that. It is not that the statement or assertion is false, but it is falsifiable. So you should be able to falsify with the observation or an experiment. Now, if the statement is always true, you cannot falsify it. Then it's not a scientific statement. Your statement has scientific statement or theory has to be testable. That is the basic idea about falsification. But then I also realized that now this has become the more or less the order of the day. But then there are different schools of thoughts are there. So we also must have at least some idea about the different schools of thought. So I will very, very, very briefly talk about the totally 180-degree opposite school of thought to Sir Karl Popper. Okay, that is led by under a great philosopher who was coincidentally was a student of Karl Popper. This is very interesting, even in our Indian traditions also, the teacher and the student both have diametrically opposite, 180-degree opposite view. The same traditions you may find in the Western traditions also. So So that school of thought is led by Feyerabend. Now the Feyerabend has written he has written many books, but then I would like to refer two books. One I have displayed here. The title of this book is Against Method. See how fascinating is the title, Against Method. All these days we were talking about the method, all research scholars are bombarded with the, and all the training and research training and everything. They are, taught about methods, methodology and everything. Here now comes a school of thought which questions methodological schools basically. So he has written this book Against Methods, and another book is Farewell to Reason. See the titles, Farewell to Reason and Against Methods. So now titles are fascinating, but it's not necessary that we should get convinced by that. We should have a reasoning behind appreciating something. So why I like this schools of thought. Of course, I equally respect the school of thought of Sir Karl Popper also. Sir. Okay, empiricism is also equally important. But then, if you see the history of science, now I will not give you all examples because that is not my domain. Also, science is not my domain. Okay, but then in the school days also, whatever little science that we studied, but then now I can relate it here in this context. You know that how laws of motions were discovered by Newton, right? He was sitting under the apple tree and the apple falls from the tree, and not only that, how discoveries were made by Archimedes, then Madame Curie's. You can give a number of examples. So all these discoveries were accidental. It was not based on any methodology or systematic study. So, so what Feyerabend says that actually the use of methodology actually limits the progress of science. That was his argument. Main argument is that the methodology, if you focus to, or if you get obsessed with the methodology, it limits or hinders the progress of science. That was the argument of Feyerabend. Well, personally, if you ask me, then I would always say that I believe in Buddhas, that the truth always lies between two extremes. Okay, so here the Buddha comes into, we can introduce Buddha here while talking about the epistemology. Now, these are the basic, then I will start SPSS because you all must be anxiously waiting for SPSS. But then before I switch over to SPSS proper, there are the issues in quantitative research that I think all those who are using quantitative techniques must focus on these issues. All these factors that I have stated here ultimately influence the outcome of your research. Say concepts, definition of variables are very important. Suppose if you are examining the impact of say education on something, okay, education is your independent variable. So now how do you define education? By literacy rate, years of education, or how would you define that variable? Formal education, informal education. No, there are different types of educations are there. So education might impact the outcome variable in several ways. But then if you don't capture the essence of education by the variable that you define, whatever you do, even if your results are positive, that also will be meaningless. If your results are negative, then also your research will be totally meaningless. So The definition of variables becomes very, very important. Similarly, measurement of variables, design of instrument, data collection method, data collection, field study, how do you conduct field studies, and etc. etc. All these things are very, very important. Now, during the course of my presentation, what do we expect? So I believe that that at least you will get acquainted with the SPSS. You probably would know generating random sample. You would know aggregation of data, Simpson paradox, how to create dummy variable, use of data, date wizard, importance of graphs, file merge, aggregate command, some mathematical operations, data explorations, data cleaning. And of course, you will definitely get a certificate. That is, in fact, the most important incentive to attend a webinar. See, I will try my best to cover whatever is stated here, depending upon the time, because the many things that I have stated here are some of the SPSS version may not have those functionality. So probably I might have to skip also, and some discussion of some of the issues probably may take some time. So depending upon the availability of time and the functionality of SPSS, I think we should be able to cover many topics. My approach will be, to cover topics in such a way that you are able to learn something instead of covering so many things and understand nothing. Instead of that, cover a few things, but develop your interest and create your interest and learn for certainly. Now, why SPSS? Now, there are many packages are available. There are many paid and many open source softwares are available. So we have SPSS, we have SAS, Minitab, eViews, and many number of softwares are there. Depending upon your usage, you can select the topic. Probably SAS and SPSS are the most expensive softwares. Now, coincidentally, I have got acquainted with the SPSS right from the first version of the SPSS. First version in the sense that when the first product of the SPSS was in the market, it was a DOS version. After that, we had a Unix version, then Windows version, then Windows version 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we have 26 versions of SPSS in the market. So SPSS is very user-friendly. It's menu-driven. And now the latest version of SPSS, is integrated with Python and R. So those who want to do advanced level of analysis can use SPSS very gainfully. And those who are afraid of programming languages like R and Python, they are, of course, freely available. They are open source softwares, and they occupy less memory, less space on the hard disk. So they are also very good software. In fact, they are now the most preferred softwares ahead of SPSS in the world. Now, most of the universities, leading universities in the world, use Python, R and other programming languages because they are absolutely free. But I would certainly, recommend that to most of the students in social sciences, especially because most of the students or research scholars in social sciences are afraid of numbers, afraid of competition. So SPSS is very useful software and very easy to use. If you want my opinion about this software, I would certainly say and strongly say that I could not have learned statistics, econometrics without SPSS. In fact, first I learned SPSS and then I picked up statistics, advanced statistics, econometrics, and other things that probably we may require in doing research. So I strongly recommend that we should use, at least social scientists should use SPSS. Moreover, we shouldn't leave a statistical analysis to other person who doesn't have the domain knowledge of your own subject. Suppose you are a student of economics. Say I am a student of economics, so it is possible that I might give examples from economics because that will naturally come to my mind. You can give examples from other subjects also, but then I think to maintain the flow, probably I would give examples from economics. Suppose you are a researcher in economics, and then you estimate a production function, and you are using, say, farm data. Now you don't know econometrics, you don't know statistics. So you take the help of some professional who is a statistician, and you estimate production function. And we know that all economists would know that the production function is a quantitative relationship between output and the factors of production. So output is a dependent variable, and the factors of productions are more factors of production are independent variable. Now suppose you estimate production function, and then you get the coefficient of labor to be insignificant. Now, naturally, you would worry that why the coefficient of labor is insignificant. It shows that the contribution of labor is zero, essentially. In a very layman language, if I have to explain some people, then if the labor coefficient of labor is insignificant, it means that the labor doesn't influence the output. Now, the person, if suppose the person has a domain knowledge, then he would understand that this particular result findings show the possibility of existence of a surplus labor in agriculture. So, but the person, if he doesn't have a domain knowledge, then he may misinterpret the result. Anyway, the point that I'm trying to make is all researchers should do statistical analysis themselves. If they don't understand statistics, take the help of an expert to learn statistics and then do analysis. Okay. Now, normally, I give references in the end, but then I strongly believe that when we do research, we should read good and standard books. So since my lecture presentation is on SPSS, so I have given two references here about the doing statistical analysis with SPSS. So the first book is by Andy Field. He is a professor at the University of Sussex, professor of psychology. He has written very wonderful book Now the latest book is published in 2019. Then there is a book by Darren and Mallory. Now the latest version is on IBM SPS Statistics 26 step-by-step analysis. Both books are excellent. If you are doing, analysis using the experimental data, I would strongly recommend that you should read Andy Field. Second thing, no research should be carried out without understanding statistical techniques. So for those who do not have any background in statistics, I would strongly recommend a book by Rebecca Warner. The title of the book is Applied Statistics from Bivariate through Multivariate Techniques. It's an excellent book published by Sage. And this is a book by, another book is by Howell, Statistical Methods for Psychology. So this is also a very good book that the researchers can use. Then this webinar is about research methodology. So I thought that I must also give some references of the books on research methodology. I am particularly fascinated by Bremen Allen. He has written many books. One is Social Research Methods, another is Business Research Methods, published by Oxford University Press. So he discusses various philosophical issues, epistemological issues, and statistical issues, issues of validity and other things. I think it's very comprehensive book that you can gain fully refer. Then the book by Newman Lawrence is also very good. It discusses the both qualitative and the quantitative approach. Now the SPSS is acquired by IBM in 2009. Mostly people, even now today, they think that the SPSS is statistical package for social sciences. And now that abbreviation has changed to statistical product and service solutions. Of course, these issues are not very important, but just for when we talk about something, I think we should be very precise. Now what does this SPSS stands for? So it doesn't stand for statistical package for social science, but now it stands for statistical product and service solution. Now, friends, now the time has come to open the SPSS. I will start my SPSS now. I understand that you probably might not have SPSS on your laptop or mobile because we cannot install this software. But if you have on your laptop, and if you can, of course, it will be difficult for you to work simultaneously with me because you require the data set that I have with me. But then you can use any data set. There is no problem. If you have SPSS with you on your laptop, kindly you can start your SPSS. And even if it is not there, please don't worry about anything. So when you open up your SPSS, the most important window is the data editor window. So we will talk about, we will just very briefly show you that this is a title bar which shows the SPSS data editor, but there are different SPSS windows are there. You have syntax file, you have output file, you have chart file, so different editors are there, chart editor, output editor, syntax editor. So here you would know that what kind of this title would suggest title bar that which kind of statistics window, SPSS window is open. Then you have a menu. This is basically a menu of command, SPSS command. That is known as command menu bar, SPSS command menu bar. We start from a file, edit, view, data, transform, analyze, graphs, utilities, window, and help. So these are the command menu. And see, if you look at this command menu, they are self-explanatory. Okay. So most of your data analysis you can do with this analyze command. You have to focus only on analyze. But before you do any statistical analysis, you have to do file preparation, data preparation, file aggregation, etc., etc. You also have to, compute certain variables, define new variables, create new variables. So for that, you have transform and the data. These two, data and transform. These are two menu, and if you click on that, there will be a drop-down menu, and then the several options will be. I will show you how it will be displayed. And this is normal, this is very common to all window programs: maximize, minimize, close, etc. At the bottom, also you have a data view and a variable view. Okay. But just you keep these things in mind. Now I will start SPSS. Now you can see this is the icon of SPSS. See, SPSS consumes a large memory, it occupies large memory and space. So it takes a lot of time to load. But I wanted to show you everything related to SPSS interface. So therefore, I did not keep it ready. Now you can see that when you start SPSS, this is the interface that will appear on your screen. Now, you have many options. You have, you can start with a new data set. If you want to prepare a new file, then you can start with the new data set. Then if you have worked on some data files, so these listings are here, recent files under the box of this.
Sir, you need to share SPSS. It's still the PowerPoint is visible. You have to basically stop sharing and then share the SPSS window.
Now, okay, 1 second. Now, how do you do that?
You
One
can
second,
stop.
hold on.
Yeah, you can stop sharing the screen first, and then again share, and then go.
So I
select
have to
SPSS.
stop PowerPoint first.
Yeah. You can stop sharing the screen. Share
Okay.
screen. You can click on, and you can. There is an option on the top, like stop share, right?
Okay. Okay. Stop share. Huh?
Yeah. And then you can again share the SPSS screen.
Okay.
So you have to go. It usually doesn't. You cannot toggle between them.
You can directly go to SPSS.
Now you can share SPSS.
Now can you see? No.
No, not now. So again you have to share screen.
Okay. 1 second. Sorry.
No problem, sir. There is no question of sorry. The way you shared the PowerPoint, the same way you can share your SPSS.
Yeah. Now it's visible.
Okay. Sorry.
No, it's okay, sir. It's okay, sir.
It is okay, sir.
Sir, again, if you want to share your PowerPoint, you could stop sharing this screen and again share your PowerPoint.
Go back to the PowerPoint, yes.
Okay. I don't think I will have to share now PowerPoint, but then depends. As we progress, because there are n number of things that I want to show you now. Okay. Now this is the interface of the SPSS data editor window. Now this is a command menu bar file that I have already discussed with that. So now what we can do is, when we start research, we have two options. Either use primary data or a secondary data. Now, when you use secondary data, probably it is possible that now you get from the database or from maybe if you go to the website of World Bank or maybe website of our Ministry of Finance or maybe Planning Commission or maybe RBI. So, or maybe Ministry of Agriculture. I have downloaded some data from the Ministry of Agriculture also that I can show you, but then, so now you get the data in Excel format from any website. Or maybe from, if you have bought some, CMI database or any other database, you can get it in Excel format. So you can directly import Excel file in SPSS. In fact, not only Excel file, but you can, I will show you. Of course, you can import SPSS file, but apart from that, there is competing software is the Systat. You can import data from Systat directly. Then you can import from Excel, Lotus, even Stata, SAS, DBase, text. So even if you have data in the text format also, you can import data in SPSS. I think I will skip this demonstration, but I can show you how to import this if you wish. Let me show you at least. One Excel file I will try, data. I have a MS University folder prepared for this. Maybe Excel file, yes. See, I have a Excel file here. So maybe Simpson paradox admission. Now this dialog box would appear. See, if you have more than one worksheet, it will sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3, sheet 4. If you have data in 10 sheets, so in whichever worksheet you want to extract, you can extract. Okay, so this data set contains only in the one sheet. So I just, you can give the range also here. So if you have a variable name in the first row of the data, you can click here. If it is not there, you can unclick this. This is called checkbox. Okay. Now why it is stopped?
So I think
Just import
share
the
screen.
share screen once again, sir. Yes.
Now I think this will be clear, and you will have to think of next and then tomorrow's session also. So what will happen is when you work with the SPSS, it will keep on producing or opening new files. So if I am working with data window, if I do some analysis, output file will be there.
Yeah.
So I think some problems will be there. But I think the audience will have to bear with this. This is the problem of the this particular Zoom. And it's not our problem, so I don't think we can do anything about that. Now you can see that Excel sheet has been imported into the
SPSS.
In the SPSS. And so now I'm not going to work on this the Simpson paradox right now, but then I want to show you several other things. So I need to work on some other file. So let me import some other file and then I will show you. Right now, I'm not going to show you about very elementary commands because I am more interested in showing some practical aspects of using SPSS. The things which you cannot do with, say, Excel or some any other. So I will open file, recently used data. See here, of course, let me discuss this. If you click on file, you have a drop-down menu. So you have n number of options because these are common to Excel and many other programs. You can open the file, you can switch the file, you can print file, etc., etc. So recently used data. I will use this. Can you see this file?
Is that the Excel file which you have imported?
No, this is not Excel file. This is a SPSS file only.
This gender admission faculty?
No.
Sir, right now on the screen, this is gender admission faculty wali file.
No.
બીજી કોઈ ફાઇલ હોય તો સર એને ફરીથી ખોલો ને. આ તો તમે જે ઇમ્પોર્ટ કર્યું છે ડેટા એ જ છે.
Now can you see?
Yes.
હવે બરાબર છે. ફાર્મ ડેટા છે ને સર?
yes.
SPSS ફાઇલ જ છે ને તમારી?
SPSS file છે.
ડોટ એક્સટેન્શન SAV છે એટલે SPSS ફાઇલ.
Yes. This is a SPSS. Now let me briefly explain you about this because if you really want to appreciate the analysis, I think we need to understand the data structure. Yes. Now in SPSS file, all these rows 1, 2, 3, 4, these are cases. Okay, and all rows are cases or respondents, and these columns you have a variable. All columns are variables. Now this is a data about 600 farmers on the different characteristics. And a huge data is there. If you see this, if you click on variable view, if you click on variable view, there are about 190 variables are there.
190.
So it's a huge data set is there. And this is real data, but it's very old data. And this data belongs to Andhra Pradesh. So I don't have any problem in sharing with that. Now, see, from this data itself, we can learn many things about research. Even if you want to understand sampling strategy also, you can understand from this data set itself. So now there are many variables are there. This data set is about farmers. There are 600 farmers are there. But then how do we know? If suppose there are 3,000 are there, how do we know? So that SPSS will help us. So now let us start with the say descriptive statistics. Whenever you have a data set, the most important thing is that you must get a feel of a data. Analyze descriptive statistics. So when you click on analyze, you have a drop-down menu. So you can see that there are again multiple options are there, right from reports, descriptive statistics, tables, compare means, general linear model, generalized linear models, mixed models, correlate, regression, log linear, neural networks, classified, dimension reduction. I'm not reading everything, but then you have many options are there. Now, my advice to the new learners is that, see, don't get disheartened by reading the top-down manual. You focus on what you want to understand and learn. So you will have to learn step by step. Now, unless you have background in advanced statistics, probably many things you won't understand. But even if you don't have a background in advanced statistics, that doesn't mean that you cannot do research. Even if it's, I give you one example. Now, Professor Dandekar, who is a very renowned economist, but he was a statistician by training. He hardly, use coefficient of variation, standard deviation, standard and error, mean, etc., maybe median in his data analysis. If you read his research, mainly you will find the use of coefficient of variation and other things. So even if you know measures of central tendency and measures of dispersion, and maybe simple cross tab and maybe chi-square test, I think you can do a lot of interesting work. So they don't get disheartened. So click on, after clicking analyze, click on cross tabs. Okay. Now you have in cross tab, this is a dialog box is there. So you need to understand this entire dialog box, rows, column. So now you have a table. So in the table you have a rows and the columns, and then you have a layer also. Layer we will talk later on while discussing about the Simpson paradox and other things. But let us take these zones into the row and size group in the columns and click OK. This is small table. We can generate bigger tables also, but then we will lose information. We cannot discuss a big table. So it's better to discuss smaller table. And then
sir, again, excuse me, sir. The table is not visible, sir.
Oh.
Maybe output. You have
Yes.
to go to the output. Here you have
again, I will have to share it.
Again, you have to stop sharing and you have to show the table.
Now it is visible. Hello? Is it visible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's visible.
Okay. Now this is basically a cross tab I have used from the analyze descriptive command. Now we can see that in this first table, case processing summary, N is 600. So we can know from this particular tables that there are 600 observations are there. N is equal to 600. And none of them is missing. So valid percentage is 100. Now, here we can see that in each zone, there are 5 zones are there. So in each zone, the first zone, there are 60 farmers are there or respondents or observations are there. In second zone, 160 observations are there. In zone 3, 150 observations are there. So totally 600 observations we can Fine. We can also see that in each size group, so these are 5 size groups of the farmers are there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now in this data file, these labels are not given. We have size group 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But what are this group 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? So for that, you have to give value labels. Since I'm acquainted with this data, I know what is 1, what is 2, what is 3, what is 4, and what is 5. So this data, these size groups are in ascending order. So this 1 is very small farmers, 2 is small farmer, 3 is intermediate farmers, 4 is large farmers, and the 5 is very large farms. So this is a sample that you can, size of the sample in each zone you can see. Now basically, while collecting this data, multi-stage stratified sampling is used. So zone is the first stage, then you have tehsil at the second stage, and the third is a farmers. So you have multiple stratified sampling method is multi-stage stratified sampling method is used in collection of this data. So that we can see from the output itself, from this data, if you use this descriptive command, you can see that how sampling is done. Now again, I will have to switch over to data file. Is it visible?
So the same output is visible.
Oh.
Cross tabs માં જે zone અને group size group નું કર્યું છે ને એ ટેબલ દેખાય છે. બીજી ટેબલ કરવાના છો?
सर दोनों को अगर मिनिमाइज करके वो करके दोनों को साइड में खोल लें एक ही स्क्रीन पे.
नहीं चलेगा. I think 1 by 1 might be झंझट होगा. ये तो वेरिएबल व्यू हो गया.
Now you see, as I told you, this data file is very used. Now when we want to do research or just we want to teach or explain to some group, we don't require, in fact, large data file. Now SPSS has a provision to make the data file smaller. So for that, we have to click on utilities, then use variable sets. Now I have already created a new data file. Out of this huge data file, I have given the name MSU. So I can now load this file, okay, which consists of less number of variables. Oh, again, this one won't be seen. No? Is it visible? This is visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm happy that it is visible. Now this is truncated file. Again, here you can see variable views. So we have just how many variables? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Only 13 variables now I have used for this, our purpose, our analysis. Now we have John. This is ID farm means the ID of the farmer. FS group means farm size group. Number of parcels. Number of parcels is number of the plots that the farmer has. A farmer can have 1 plot, 2 plots, 3 plots, maybe 5 plots. So that is known as number of parcels. Total land holding, how much land the farmer has. Then what is leased land, irrigated area, yielding variety area, total value of output, total family hours, total casual labor, cropping intensity, etc. Now using this a small data file, You can do wonderful statistical analysis. You can prepare graphs. You can examine many research hypotheses. You can do regression analysis, and you can transform variables and do all sorts of things. So let us start with the simple things. Now let us try to see what is the average farm size. We may be interested that in each size group, what is the average size of holding is there. That is our natural interest. We have 5 size classes are there of the farmers. Now we want to know what is the average size. We can also know what is the group average. So now let us try to attempt that. Analyze descriptive statistics. Sorry. Here I will have to use mean command because we want to find out the mean of the size of the land holding.
Compare means what you are.
Is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. So dependent list is say total area of land. So whenever you want to find out average, so Professor Rakesh Srivastav yesterday mentioned that you can find out the mean only if you have a ratio data. If you have a nominal data, you cannot find out the mean, right? Now, independent variable is size group because we want average of farms for different size groups. Click OK. To execute command in SPSS, you always have to click OK.
Okay.
One more thing, probably you should know, and remember, especially those who want to do research at very advanced level. Now you can see this checkbox is there, paste button. So if you click on paste, I'm not clicking right now, but if you, now what is the purpose of this particular command is there. Now if you click on paste, you know, that will generate a syntax command, okay? Then that will open up a syntax file also. So whatever statistical analysis you do, whatever command you give, that is stored in that file. So later on, you can use that syntax file to do statistical analysis. And that makes your life very simple. Moreover, if you have any, if you have committed any blunder in doing mathematical operations or statistical operation or creating new variables, it is stored in your syntax file. So you can go back to syntax file and see if you have committed any mistakes or not. So therefore, this syntax file is very, very important. But right now, I'm explaining everything through this menu-driven command. So I'm not using that options that is available to us. But you can always explore that. So I just click on OK. Now you can see that you expect that the size group 1 would have the lowest farm size. The average farm size is 0.82. Then the size 2 as 1.5. This is measured in hectares, okay? Right now it is not important for us, but then those who have no research interest probably would like to know. Size class 3, 2.7 hectares, size class 4, 4.6 hectares, and 5, 7.5 hectares. These are the large farms. And the total is 3 point. So group average of all 600 farmers is 3.4. So you can see that there are large variations in the farm size are there. Now within the size class also, you can find large variations. In the smaller farms, you have less variations that is reflected from standard deviation. In the first size group, standard deviation is 0.47, and the standard deviation increases as the size class increases. This is very, very important for us. Professor Rakesh Srivastava would immediately understand the implications of this while doing statistical analysis. So not only we have to look at this a mean, but we should also look at
Standard deviation.
corresponding a standard deviation.
Correct.
Okay. Now probably you would like to know, this is what we have seen is the average farm size in respective size classes. Probably one might be interested to know the production, average production in each, or maybe productivity, whatever name you want to give. So now let us try to find out that. Analyze, compare means. So you are interested in total this is total value of crop output, okay? So this is total production. Then maybe cropping intensity, total family hours, total casual. You can take and use as many variables as you want. Now again, you say you can see this table, there are no missing values. So this is excellent data is there.
Right.
Now this is going to be very interesting.
Good data.
See, this is a smaller, one is smaller of farm size, two is smaller, and it is in ascending order, okay? So now you can see that the mean output is increasing. Can you see? This is the mean output of the first farm size. This is the mean output of second farm size. This is the mean output of third farm size. This is the mean output of the fourth. So as you go, move from smaller farm size to the larger farm, it increases up to, increases up to the fifth farm size, okay? So there is a, how economists would interpret. There are many problems with that, but please don't go by that. Right now, I don't want to enter into that discussion. But normally, looking at this data, it would appear that the large farms are more productive than the small farms. So from this simple cross-check, you can draw such observations. But there are, I will very briefly and shortly discuss what are the issues with this observation. But right now, let us observe this. See, cropping intensity is higher on small farms. You can see, can you see this? 143. That it goes on declining. As the farm size increases, the cropping intensity declines, right? Similarly, this total family hours. The total family hours keeps on increasing as the farm size increases. Total casual labor also increases at the farm size increases. Friends, I don't know how much background you have in agricultural economics, because I am or development economics for that matter. You know that there is a legislation of selling on land holding. Now, how that legislation has come about, that is based on a research work in the development economics. Now, it was observed long time back. Apart from social equity considerations, there was a rational on economic efficiency ground that the small farmers were found to be more productive than the large farms. Therefore, there was a case of selling on land holding on economic ground. So such, policy prescriptions came out from observations of this kind of data only. This probably might give you clue. So what are the issues with this kind of data? Whether there is a positive relationship between farm size and the output, or there is no relationship, or there is a negative relationship. So prima facie, you can see that there is a positive relationship. But then we have ignored many points here. If you can see here, we have taken the total value of crop output. In fact, ideally what we should have done is, we should have taken the value of output per unit of production, maybe for a hectare of production. Then probably that could have been a very ideal measure for observing the farm efficiency, not the total production, but the total production for unit of land is an ideal measure. So the point that I discussed initially, that how you measure your variable is very, very important. Here the output, farm output is a variable. Now how do you measure farm output? For studying the farm efficiency. So you cannot take the total value of output, but ideally you should be taken value of output per unit of land. There also, how do you define per unit of land? That issue becomes very important, because you have net sown area, you have cross cropped area, etc., etc. So which unit of land you should be considering for evaluating economic efficiency of a farmer. Now this one gives clue there is a problem. Cropping intensity is highest on small farm. So that gives a clue that there should be some problem in the observed relationship between the farm size and output. Okay. Now I will not discuss all the issues related to examining this relationship, because we have not because this data again you can relate with the Simpson paradox that I am going to discuss now. See what these are, data from 5 zones from different areas of Andhra Pradesh. So there are 5 agroclimatic zones are there. Now data of 600 farmers are collected from these 5 agroclimatic zones. This is the unit level of data. Then they are aggregated. Okay. So what we have done is we have presented an aggregated picture here. Ideally, what we can do now, we can see whether this relationship exists in the respective zone or not, because we have pooled the data. So it can have an aggregation bias. We should always remember that when we pool the data from different heterogeneous individuals or geographical regions or whatever it is. So when we pull a data from heterogeneous background, it can lead to aggregation bias. So what kind of bias? See, if there is no relationship between two variables, it is possible that when you aggregate data, a positive or negative relationship may emerge. It is also possible that at disaggregated level, when there is a positive or negative relationship at disaggregated level, at aggregated level, that relationship might disappear. So that is the problem with aggregator and or using this kind of a cross step when we aggregate data and present our findings like this. It has this bias. Of course, in statistics there are several ways of dealing with this. You can introduce dummy variable. You can introduce one layer here. You can do several things to control this confounding effects. So this is about Simpson paradox or aggregation bias and other things. Now while doing this, let me go to this, talk about some mathematical functions in SPSS. So for that, we have to use transform command. Click on compute. Now you will be able to see this dialog box. Are you able to see?
Yes.
Yeah, you are able to see this dialog box. Okay.
Yeah. Computer variable numeric expression.
Now, see. Now, when you see this dialog box, now you see here cursor target variable. Now, this is the new name of variable. See, we have to understand the language of the software. If you don't understand, this language of software, so sometimes, it's difficult to work with this software. So things are very simple, but the only thing is that we have to know, okay, what is this target variable? So target variable is nothing, because when you do mathematical operation, a new variable will be created. So now the SPSS doesn't understand what will be that new variable. So we have to give the name of that a variable. Now suppose we want to find out production per unit of land. Okay, so we can give the name productivity. So I type productivity. It is always advisable to give a name of the variable. Okay, label also. So production per unit of land holding or total land area purchased, whatever it is. It is numeric.
It is numeric.
Now we have productivity is defined by total value of output by total land area. So it is divided. So this is for division. This particular slash is used for division. And total land area. So productivity is defined as total output divided by total land holding. Now I will explain, all the functions here itself. You can perform all mathematical operations here. Now suppose once you, by some chance you feel that the relationship is not linear, it is a quadratic. So what you have to do is you have to find the square of an independent variable. So you have to create that variable here only, use this compute command and multiply this variable by itself. So you will get a square variable. And a separate command also will be there, but this is a simple thing that you can do. Variable multiply variable 1 multiply by variable 1 will give you variable 1 square. So this slash is used for division. This star is used for multiplication. And of course, you can use, conditional transformation you can carry out by using this less than, minus, and etc. You can add variable, you can subtract variable, you can multiply, you can divide. This is for addition, plus is for addition. Of course, this is for balance. I don't have to, this is too trivial, so I don't want to deal with that. But you look at this function group, I click on all. So on these functions and special variables, you can find that how many functions you can do. You can find out absolute value. We are, I think, maybe 60% or 70%, maybe we may not be knowing anything about that, except Professor Sri, Rakesh Srivastava, or any mathematician would know all these things. But we don't have to know everything. But you just click on a mathematical function or something like that. Arithmetic function. Don't do much more than that. So you will be able to, you can truncate the variable, find sine, square root, etc. You can, so cost function, exponential function, log function, natural log. So all mathematical functions are there and you can use them. So let us focus on productivity and create this variable. Oh.
So we can close one or two if you want.
I don't know actually why that output is not seen.
સર એક બે ફાઇલ તમે ક્લોઝ કરી દો જે પહેલીની ફાઇલ છે ને તો એટલે પછી તમારે આઉટપુટની એક બે ફાઇલ બંધ કરી દો કાં તો મિનિમાઇઝ કરી દો. આ ફાઇલ બંધ જ કરી દો તમારે કઈ જરૂર ના હોય તો. આને રહેવા દો જે ટ્રંકેટેડ ડેટા ફાઇલ છે એને રહેવા દો.
હા સાહેબ આ થવું નહીં જો આવું. One second, just hold on.
હા પ્લીઝ પ્લીઝ સર ટેક યોર ઓન ટાઈમ. આવું થાય જ છે આ તો વેરી કોમન.
કઈ છે આવી જાવ. Is it visible?
हाँ सर देखाय છે.
हाँ.
વેરિયેબલ વ્યૂ ની વાત કરો છો ને સર? વેરિયેબલ
हाँ जी,
વ્યૂ
हाँ जी, हाँ जी.
હા દેખાય છે.
Sorry, आज नीचे आया 191 productivity.
હા હા.
એટલે truncated file હતી એના લીધે વેરિયેબલ શો નતો કરતો.
ના ના હવે દેખાય છે સર. ન્યુમેરિક છે, પ્રોડક્ટિવિટી દેખાય 191 દેખાય છે સર.
અચ્છા અચ્છા. So similarly you can find out all kind of all manipulations you can do with using transform command.
ટ્રાન્સફોર્મ માંથી યુઝ થઈ શકે છે.
Compute variable, I think if you see this drop down menu of the transform command, then the most important is a compute variable and record into different variables. These are, I think, the most important
applications, right?
Procedures of SPSS that I think every one of us should know. Now, those who want to work little at advanced level, for them, I think they should know this time and date and time wizard. I think most of the people don't use this command at all. And many people do not use this create time series, but then it is possible that these options or this procedure are not available in many versions of the SPS. So that is possible. But then I would say that at least 5 commands or procedures we must know. That is compute variable, recode into different variables. I will never advise recode into same variables. I will never ever advise. If you are a very proficient user of SPSS or researcher, you can use it. Otherwise, I will never ever advise to use record into same variables because your information will be lost. Unless you have separate data file, which you have kept it, then you can use it. Otherwise, always use record into different variables so your data is not lost for that particular automatic code record. Unless you are seasoned user, you should not be using that. Create dummy variables. Many SPSS version may not have this particular options available with them. But in your version, because of integration with Python and R, if SPSS has already been integrated with Python and R, you will find these options. Create dummy variables. Otherwise, you have to create a dummy variables using this record into same different variables. Then you can create a dummy variable. So if Python is integrated, then probably you will be able to use create dummy variables. So when you have to create many dummies, if you have to create one dummy, it is okay. You can use record into different variables. But then if you have to create several dummies, say suppose for example, you are working with this farm data and you have 60 talukas or blocks are there and you want to create 60 dummies. Now, if you are going to create 60 dummies, that will take a lot of time. But using this create dummy variables, using only one command, you can create 60 dummies at a time. 5 dummies, 10 dummies, whatever dummy you want to create, you can create in no time. But otherwise, normally, we work with more or 2 dummies. That is fine. We can use record into different variables. So all versions of SPSS have this option available to us. This visual binning and optimal binning, and they are useful, but then I think we should leave it to experts. Whenever you want to create some size group and other things, these are very important. So what I will do is, I will talk about creating a dummy variable, record into different variables. So I will create a dummy variable using some data set. I think let me use same data. Otherwise, I have to change this file sharing and other things.
better
what
sir,
I will do is
use the same data sir.
same data set. Let me use it.
એક જ ડેટા સેટ યુઝ કરો સર એમાં એટલે તમારે પછી ડેટા એક્સપ્લેન કરવું પડશે બધું.
હા, તો આપણે અહીંયા શું કરીએ, 5 ઝોન છે એટલે એના ડમી ક્રિએટ કરવા ઈઝી થઈ જાય.
એના ડમી ક્રિએટ કરી દો ને સર ઝોનના.
હા, ઝોનના આપણે ક્રિએટ કરીએ. So what I will do is I will use this command of creating dummy, not by coding different variables, but transform create dummies, a dummy variable, create dummy variable for zone. Okay, this is a dialog box. Now you want to create a dummy for a zone. So we know there are 5 zones, so 5 dummies will be created. So but we will have to give some name for this dummy variable. Like, you know, compute variable, you have to give some name. So for creating a new dummy, you have to give some name. So maybe we can give Zn. Okay. So this SPSS will pick up. So it will create some, you know, Gen-1, Gen-2, something like that. It will create. So if you see that this OK is activated, then I think we have entered correct information, or required, not correct, then the required information. Can you see here OK is activated?
No sir.
Here.
Okay, हाँ हवे दिखाई हाँ yes.
हमें दिखाई दे OK activated.
हाँ OK is activated.
Okay. So create dummy variable for zone. Okay. So we know that there are 5 zones are there. So we have to give some name for this. So I have given Zn. Okay. So OK is activated. Let me click on this. Now let me see the data file. Can you see Zn1, Zn2, Zn3, Zn4?
हाँ बराबर છે 194 to 198 સુધી આવી ગયા સર.
આવી ગયા ને?
હા આવી ગયા.
This is something very wonderful.
એટલે 5 ડમી ક્રિએટ થઈ ગયા સર.
હા બરાબર છે.
હા સર.
Now if you have seen our descriptive data file, you can see how many farmers were there or observations were there. So maybe depending on that, I think there were 60 observations were there. So one is there for 60 observations. Then for rest, it is 0.
0. Dummy છે એટલે 10 જ લેવાના છે.
Of course, it has come with a decimal point. What you can do is in go to variable view.
વેરિયેબલ માં કર્યું છે એટલે
આપણે એને
0 કરી શકાય.
આપણે હટાવી શકીએ.
હા એ હટી જશે.
See, I have not taken up this separately, how to create a variable file, but we can discuss it here only.
બરાબર. Correct.
So we have already discussed how to create a dummy variable, right? It's very easy. You can create 60 dummy also like this. Now see this farm size group. Let me give this decimal label, value labels. Now how to give value labels? That is very, very important while you are doing analysis. And see, particularly when you want to remember at later stage, recall at later stage, when you want to share a file with somebody else, this is very important. So let me, if you click on this value labels on farm size groups, this variable number 4, look at this variable number 4 FS group. Then here, corresponding to that, and then you click on that, this dialog box will open. So give a value 1. What is label? Very small farms. Click on add. Now there are 5 values. So remember to create value labels for all 5 values. 2, small firms, 3, medium firms, 4, large firms, very large firms. Add. Now click on OK. So value label are created. If you see on data view, view value labels. Now you can see one is replaced by very large firms, etc. Very small firms, small firms, etc. So this is about creating value labels. Now, another interesting thing is that you can copy this property of variables. These are called the properties. These value labels, decimals, width, align, measure, these are called properties of variables. So we can copy within the data file, and also we can copy this way. We can copy this entire data properties and create another data file. So you need not copy this or type this variable properties again. You can straight away apply this variable properties to another data file. Suppose you are working on, say, 10 different villages. You are collecting data from 10 different villages, and the 10 research project investigators are there. So one person can create this variable properties and send it to these 10 different research investigators. So all need not create this variable property. It can save a lot of time. Similarly, these value labels are also, especially in psychology and the political science studies, where you measure, attitude, agree, strongly agree, or satisfactory, very satisfactory, etc. If you have 5, observations or 10 observations, 10 value of measurements. Sorry. So you can give value label to each one of these, but then you have said 20 questions. So now you don't have to give value labels to all 20 questions. You give the value labels to one question and then copy those value labels to the remaining 10 questions or 20 questions, whatever it is there. So that saves a lot of time. So it is very important to remember or to know the time-saving devices, because we are doing research work regularly. So it is better to know many time-saving devices. Of course, I'm not expert in programming, but you can create a batch files also. You can run macros also like in Excel or Word. You have macros. So similarly, the SPS also has a provision to run a macros. Yes, I will have a water and just excuse me. See, I promised you how to use this date wizard, time and date wizard. I think I must show you that, because I tried to look at many books, but then it was not available. But I thought that this feature is extremely important for researcher. So whenever you collect data, I think try to collect as minute information as possible, because later on you can convert that information as the way in which you want. Professor Rakesh Srivastava very rightly talked about this ratio data, nominal data, and ordinal data. So as far as possible, collect ratio data. Now, if you collect nominal data, you cannot convert it into ordinal or ratio data. But if you have a ratio data, you can convert into categorical data or maybe ordinal data. So that is the advantage of collecting ratio data. See, wherever it is not available, so gender is naturally you have male and female. So that you cannot have a ratio data. But when you talk about pass and fail, it is also, a nominal data, pass and fail. But then this pass and fail has been computed from a ratio data, that is marks. So your marks are a ratio data. So from marks, you have created two categories, pass and fail. So pass and fail is also nominal data, two categories. Smoking, non-smoking is also two categories. Gender, male and female is also two categories, but there are differences. One has an underlying, continuous properties there. Pass and fail is concerned. So underlying continuity is there in case of pass and fail. So nominal data also are of two types. And when you do analysis, that matters. If you want to be very exact and perfect. Now let me open the another file. I will have to do that, unfortunately. Share it again. Okay. Now this is the inbuilt file of SPSS. I think most of the people use this file in giving lectures. So this is, I think most of the people know about this file. This is, I think, a data about any organization. There you have a composition of male and female, then their educational level, job category, beginning salary, current salary, experience, previous experience, and minority status. So this is the data file. Now you have a birth date. Okay. Now you want to know the age profile of this organization. Okay. So you don't have their age, you only have this birth date. So from this birth date, now how can you work out age? So let me explain, because SPSS has inbuilt a provision to find out the age. For that, you have to go to transform, date and time wizard. Then this dialog box will open. Then you have to create a data. Calculate with dates. Okay, you have to select this. These are radio buttons are there. So 1, 2, 3, 4th radio button is there. You have to click on that. Click next. Add and substitute. Calculate number of time. So you have to calculate the units between two dates. To click this second radio button. Click next. Now this dialog box would open. This is very important. So what we do is we are subtracting, year of current year from the date of birth. So take this current date into This is default. This is system defined variable. This is your date of birth. So current year minus your date of birth, that will give your number of year or age. We can truncate to integer. You can get a number of year and months also, but then we are getting to nearest integer. Click next. Result variable. See, we have to remember while using this the data and transformation command, that while ever we create a new variable, whether we create through compute command or record command or this date wizard, or by any means, whenever we create a new variable, we have to give some name. So unless we complete that procedure, that the command will not be executed. So I always remember that while creating a new variable, we have to give some name. Now look at this data file. On extreme right, you can see age 68, 61, 90, 73. This is the quickly you can go to analyze descriptive statistics, find descriptives, age, click on OK. These are descriptive. So there are 473 observations are there in this data file. Minimum age is 49, maximum age is 91, mean age is 63. So these organizations normally
table નથી દેખાતી સર
has a aged population.
સર આઉટપુટ બતાવી દો ને એટલે દેખાય.
હા આઉટપુટ જ બતાવો જાય ને
સર અત્યારે ડેટા શીટ દેખાય છે અત્યારે.
ડેટા દેખાય છે.
હા આ તમે જે છેલ્લા કોલમ એજ ના કર્યું ને 68 61 90 એ શીટ દેખાય છે અત્યારે આઉટપુટમાં જતા રહો ને.
આ આઉટપુટ જ છે
સર એમાં તમારું ડેટા જે છે ને જેન્ડર બર્થ ડેટ એજ્યુકેશન જોબ કેટેગરી અને છેલ્લે આપણે જે ટ્રાન્સફોર્મ યુઝ કરીને આપણે એજ
અગેન શેર ઇટ આઈ થિંક.
હા એટલે ટાઈમ અને ડેટ વિઝાર્ડ થી એજ કેલ્ક્યુલેટ કર્યું ને એ જ દેખાય છે છેલ્લા કોલમ. આઉટપુટ જશો એટલે આવી જશે. હા યસ હવે દેખાય છે.
અરે ભગવાન
473 મિનિમમ 49 મેક્સિમમ 91 હવે આવી ગયું. હા સર.
and
mean is there, standard deviation is there.
You can transpose also. These are a beautiful, provisions. One more thing that I have forgotten, let me quickly do it. Because now I'm looking at the clock. I can go on, but it's okay, fine. See, there are ultimately, whenever we do research, we have to make a presentation, whether in a thesis, dissertation, or annual report, or a project. So many things are conveyed better through charts. But then here, if time permits, I will do it. Otherwise, I have already talked to Rami that if whatever is left out, please kindly to deal with that. Because there are certain things which I consider to be very important. So let me do about this bar chart. So if you want to create any graphs, there is a separate command menu is there, graph. So in the graph menu, you have many options. But better you go to this options legacy dialogues, because that legacy dialogues has been there right from the initial versions of SPSS.
Yeah.
So it's better to, and that is, I think, those who are beginner, they should use this option only. Then if you become expert, you can go to chart builder and other things. But essentially the result will be same. So in bar charts, you have three options. You can create simple chart, clustered chart, and a stack chart. So let us create a simple chart. Define in category axis. Education level. Select education level, take it to this category axis. And then in column, we can take male and female.
ऊपर से सर, जेंडर ऊपर से.
1 second, 1 second. I think this is not the graph that I wanted. The graph, sorry. Simple, define, we can, it's not education level, but job category. This is a graph of job category and male and female number of counts. Basically, whenever you have a number of counts, I think you have to select the simple bar chart. So these graphs are not properly come up, maybe because of the scale problem. Otherwise, I think it should come out. Analyze graphs, legacy dialog box, clustered, continue. And yes, this is a better chart, cluster chart is there. Now in this chart, you can see that the proportion of male and female are different in each category. There are three categories of employment are there: clerical, custodial, and manager. So in custodial category, you don't have any female. In manager, also you have females in administrative positions, but less number of females are there. So in the clerical positions, you have more number of females. So from the graph itself, you can know many things. Now the most important graph for the researcher, those are doing regression analysis or correlation analysis, is a scatter graph. Now, I would request Professor Rami to demonstrate tomorrow whenever he take up this thing, regression analysis. And so the data analysis are done by, I already there in my PowerPoint presentation, but then, okay, shall I show? Anyway, I will have to go to PowerPoint presentation. Now you can see that the 4 sets of data are there. Now, if you do regression analysis, if you regress y on x using these 4 sets of data, then what you get is identical R square in all 4 regression analysis. Identical R square, identical beta coefficients, and roughly same intercept. There are 4 sets of data are there, totally different data sets. So when you regress y on x, you get identical results, identical R square, identical intercept, and identical beta coefficient. Now, why it should be so? Because data sets are totally different, and your slope of coefficient and the intercept coefficient is same, and R square is also same. So there should be something wrong. Now, how do you detect that? So if you prepare a scatter diagram, if you do analysis in the scatter diagram, you will find the graph looking like this. So this is the set of data, and this is an article published in the American Statistician in 1973. This is a very famous article by Enscombe that describes the importance of the scatter diagram. So in the beginning, I was telling that the simple things are not unimportant. So we think that the diagram, scatter diagram or bar chart, or these are simple things are there. So we shouldn't be bothering about that. In fact, the scatter diagram is the most important diagram if you are doing a correlation analysis or a regression analysis, and that will help you to detect any problems in the data set. Now, what I will do is, see, I have data on the corona also. I wanted to, in fact, explain structural break with the help of the data. This is a real data of corona cases, and this is how the cases have increased. And by doing regression analysis and using dummy variable, you find out the structural break. Here in the graph, it is quite visible, that this is a structural break. And the same thing you can find out using regression analysis. You create a dummy variable and then run a regression. I have already got everything with my, in the PowerPoint. I knew that in the end I may run short of time, so it will be difficult to demonstrate that. But just I wanted to show you how dummy variables can be used to examine the structural break in anything, in national income, in consumption, or maybe in corona cases or anything. Whenever you want to examine the structural break, this through dummy variable you can do it. You can create a dummy variable and run regression. So here you can see that the coefficient is very significant. So there is a structural break in the cases of corona. So I'm not now giving you if those who are interested, I can give, there's a huge list of books is there on research methodology, statistics, and research. If you are interested, I can share with you. There is absolutely no problem. Before I end my, again, let me come back to the philosophers. Now you see the picture on the right. There is a man, is struggling hard to carry this huge rock, hill. It's a famous from the, a novel by Albert Camus, Myth of Sisyphus. If you have read, those are interesting literature, must have read Myth of Sisyphus. It talks about the futility of many things. But towards the end, I would say that, again, quote Albert Camus, no matter how hard the world pushes against me, within me, there is something stronger, something better, pushing right back. So probably initially you may struggle with statistics, you may struggle with the SPSS, or struggle with several other things. But compared to maybe 10 years now or maybe 20 years past, the things have changed a lot. Now you have ample opportunities to learn, because you probably might have access to very good books on the net. In fact, very good video lectures also on all the topics related to SPSS. You will get best videos, and you can learn SPSS through those videos. In fact, I have learned SPSS through trial and error method. You just can't imagine how difficult life was when I was using SPSS for DOS version. The life was very miserable. But then the life goes on, life improves. So I must thank MS University of Baroda, especially Professor Parimal Vyas, Vice Chancellor, Professor Rakesh Srivastava, and IQAC team of the MS University. Professor Rakesh Srivastava was, has planned everything very meticulously. He ensured that things are not missed out. He, in fact, arranged for rehearsal sessions also and everything. I think his guidance input was very useful to us. I don't know whether I have covered the required. Given the time concern and the issue related, this was very difficult for me, changing file sharing and everything. Probably, I don't know, I have to talk to Gaurang Rami also. He may also face same problem. But I will be very happy to take up any questions if you have.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Professor Srivastava, thank you so much.
No, sir,
And Dr. Priti, thank you so much.
Sir, you need not thank. I'll come and thank you later on. Let Preeti ask the questions first.
Yes, sir. Sir, first question is how to download SPSS in laptop and from where we can learn in detail SPSS.
So download 3 seconds.
Download. From where we can learn in detail.
See, a good question. I'm happy that you asked that question. See, you can download SPSS from the website of the IBM, ibm.com, I suppose. So you can download. But then you can download trial version. So you can get trial version of SPSS for 44 or 45 days. So I think 45 days are enough. Or alternatively, you can get a student version also. Previously, good textbook used to give SPSS student version. That is another option. The third thing is that, see, you can visit the website of Andy Field also. We will get a lot of material on this. And videos of Andy Fields are freely available on the net. Andy Field. The only thing is that, those who are very purist, they shouldn't watch his videos because he's a psychologist. Now, he thinks that giving example of, drugs, man-woman relationship, these, that, everyone enjoys it. So he thinks that's a fun to learn SPSS if you give that example.
Sir, second question is how to find out weighted average mean in SPSS.
Beg your pardon?
Weighted average mean in SPSS.
you can get a weighted average mean. I did not cover that. So there's the option of weight is there. Weight cases. In SPSS, there is an option of weight cases is there. You click on that, so then you will be able to get a weighted average. See, we must know, and see, there are 4 or 5 different types of averages are calculated by SPSS. So what happens is, some mean are misleading. Misleading in the sense, how do I say? Whenever you need, say, weighted mean, you end up in getting, different kind of mean. So we must know when we are getting weighted mean, when we are getting grand mean. So we have to understand the nature of data and how SP, because you get, mean through explore command, through descriptive command, and then various other commands. 4 or 5 different commands are there to get mean. So each time you calculate, you may get different mean.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much. The next question is, what is the importance of, sir? In fact, there were 4 questions on dummy variable, and I have just combined them. What is the importance of creating dummy variable, and will it give optimum result? Why they are used? Why they are created? What is the use of creating dummy variable?
See, dummy variable is essentially is a qualitative variable. Okay. So now, when you want to see whether any change has occurred between 2 groups, or maybe say male and female, you can create a dummy of male and female. Okay, and see if there are differences are there between male and female. Then maybe 2 time period are there. Maybe, I didn't want to give the political example. Maybe in the first regime and the second regime are there. Is there any significant difference in the growth rates of economy is there or not? Whatever. Maybe money supply, interest rate, inflation. You want to see whether structural breaks are there. So qualitative variables or dummy variables are certainly important. If you want to see that there are 3 zones are there. So whether there are zonal differences are there or not, how can you see? You have to create zonal dummy and see those differences exist or not. Maybe Professor Akash Srivastava may reflect on that, but this is a very layman understanding.
And sir, would you like to say something?
No, let sir continue.
Yeah, creating label is similar to coding. The participant is asking that creating label is similar to coding. Labeling, sir.
It is not coding. In fact, we are giving a label to the code.
So
we are giving label to the code. If you have say male is 1 and the female is 2, so we are giving, 1 is male and we are defining what is 1 and what is 2. We are defining that.
Yes, sir. So, sir, we are taking the last question. This is in date and time wizard. Can we use date of data collection instead of current date for calculating age of subjects from the date of birth?
Yeah.
You can.
I think there will be a difference of only date of the data collection and the date of the analysis only. That will be the difference in age of the respondent. So that will not.
See, I was wondering most elementary things that you can do. See, like our brain, we hardly use 5% or 10% of our brain. So SPSS also, why SPSS? Even Word, Excel, you take up any package, we hardly use 5% or 10% of their potential ability to perform certain tasks.
Okay, sir. So with this, we can end question answer session. Thank you very much, sir. You have really covered from the basic data view, variable view to different types of analysis and getting output, everything. Often we are unable to know or too slow to recognize how much and in what ways we could deliver and communicate to others through these kind of sharing such expertise and knowledge. But in present scenario, sir, facilities like chat box, simultaneously as soon as expert deliver the talk, participants also start sending comments and feedback. So we are getting positive comments for this session, and we are having lots of comments, lots of feedback. And now I would like to request Professor Rakesh Srivastava to propose vote of thanks, sir.
It was very nice session, Pandya ji, and I can understand that it was a challenge that which you actually very nicely handled, going from PowerPoint to live SPSS, going to and opening the SPSS software, and then performing the SPSS operations and showing the output. It is not that easy job, particularly when we are dealing with this type of technology, maybe for the first or second time in the life. We have made several presentations on PowerPoint. We have made several presentations directly on SPSS, but making a combination and having a balance of the two was very nicely maintained by you, number one. Number two, sir, you need not thank me. તમે મારા વડીલ છો, sir. તમને મારે આભાર કહેવાનું ના હોય, મારે તમને આભાર કહેવાનું હોય. It was really a pleasure. It was really a pleasure to have you with us. I am looking forward. I will discuss with the Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, that we should have some more sessions like with Professor Pandya and Professor Gaurang, and maybe statistics people can also come together, and so that we can plan something for the benefit of our research community at large, wherein what we have been doing for the last 3 days, and when you come, as I said, you are rotating the wheel. We are just telling that you do t-test, but how to do t-test, you are telling that, which is very, very important. So, sir, once again, we have given a lot of time, so I will not take much of your time. Thank you very much on my personal behalf. Thank you on behalf of the Maharaja Sayaji Rao University of Baroda, and looking forward for certain other sessions like this. Sir, thank you once again joining us.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Aujo.
Aujo.